Yeah, that's actually the first song I heard from the show. When I first got the thing, my iPod was on random, and I didn't know it, and that's the song that started. It doesn't seem like an opening song, but I'm like, wow. So, all right, story of tonight, wait for it. What's going on here in terms of our place in the story? What? Yeah.
Wait, I don't know if you said that very loud. Can you say it again?
Right after the wed.
Okay. And what do we learn about Aaron Burr? What? He has a lady in his life. Is she available?
No.
Is she close to available?
No.
Is this a safe relationship? Okay. So again, we're really setting this as a foil. Like I said, there's a definite parallel along these story paths. But also, we're now at the point of, but we're getting our first deep look at Burr, right? Inside his psyche with this song. Okay. What is the tone of the music? Again, you're an audience member who doesn't understand English, or a listener who doesn't understand English. What does the music, the tone of the song, tell you about his character?
Like a slow progression.
Slow progression, yeah. What else?
Anxiety.
Do you feel the song carries some anxiety just in the music? Seriousness? Anger? And then I think all this is kind of bubbling up by the choice of the minor key and the pulsating, the relentless kind of pulsating of that kind of African rhythm clapping in the background, you know, is just driving a real story of, compared to the last main song, Satisfied, is he satisfied? Okay. Why do we wait till now to go deeper into Burr, who's, you know, the next biggest character outside of Hamilton? And why do we wait till now to get into the other, you know, supporting characters to get into it? And obviously this addresses probably one of the most common problems with new fiction writers. What happens if you do this earlier?
Then you have nothing left to fill in the interim.
Yeah, one, you have nothing less to film. What else?
You might think Burr is the main character instead of Hamilton.
Yeah, you can end up confusing who's the main character. What else happens if you do this earlier? And I'm not even just talking about just Burr. I'm talking this whole quick. We've just now in this section where it's called Tests, Allies, and Enemies. We've just met, you know, 2 allies, you know, 1 enemy, and Hamilton has in this section passed a test already, hasn't he? What test has he passed? Yeah, he can bring up, but he can navigate, you know, in a higher society, in a political society. You know, this in the middle of all this, suddenly there's a test that he has passed. But I would just say on a simple level, authors who try to do this kind of thing early on, besides the other traps that actually fall into it, confusing whether this is the hero or not, it bogs the story down at the beginning. You know, if you like the song says, wait for it, you want to wait until the audience is going, you know, or your reader is going, I want to know more about this character. Not just bombard them at the top with information about character. Which, have any of you read, you know, books that do that make you go, I'm just, you know, too much to take in. Yeah. So this is section, you know, it's designed in that structure. This is the point where you get to flesh out. So you're probably dealing with your story, you know, about other characters that you want to know when and where to talk about them. And, you know, use that, you judiciously, put it off. Tease the audience. Don't give them, you know, tease your reader. Don't give them all the information they need on every single character. That's perfect for this point. And then how can you weave that in with maybe the tests that your hero needs to go through? Again, kind of part of the idea of tests, allies, and enemies, and the tests are very specific. The tests are, what does the hero learn that makes us as an audience believe he can succeed for the overall portion of the show? So does it matter if his test is, does he play lacrosse well? I mean, if that were the test. I mean, it's like, you know, just because something is a challenge and he has to win or he has an obstacle, in that moment, doesn't necessarily just make it a test, so to speak. Your idea is that this connects to the overall kind of theme of what you're telling in your story. if your story is like he is, that he founded the National Bank, which changed our, idea of government forever, and he wrote his way to the top, how is his test here related to our belief that he can accomplish this? But the real story, we're assisted by the fact that we know they actually did accomplish this, but we still want to, show that progression. We love in our history and our storytelling to show that there is like some sort of inevitable sequence of events that made this person more capable of handling this thing. And then we rise to that. What else are you pulling out of Wait For It? About the character, about the story, about what's going on? How many different, beyond we've introduced all three of these characters, we're getting a different portrait of Hamilton from all three of them as well, aren't we? As much as these characters are getting painted, they are throwing back and giving us deeper illumination on Alexander Hamilton. Besides the fact that he's, jealous here clearly, what does Aaron Burr think of Hamilton?
He thinks he's brash. He thinks he's very big-headed. He jumps into things without actually carefully analyzing it. That's the opposite of Burr, because he waits for it.
Yeah.
He calculates, and then he acts. But Hamilton's the exact opposite.
And I think the central line in this is he has nothing to lose.
I think he doesn't think he belongs and he's gonna flicker out sooner or later. And that's kind of what I was hoping was to wait for it.
Yeah.
Not only was Burr gonna make a move or something like that, but wait for it, Hamilton's, he's, passing.
Yeah, he's not only waiting for the right opportunity for himself, but he's waiting for Hamilton to just screw it up horribly and show him in his mind that his conviction that it's better to be patient and calculating, than to be reckless and ambitious. Is this something that, how many of you can relate to something like this idea? When you see other people pulling off things that you wish you could, you sense they're gonna fail, you don't have that same ability to take the same chances or whatever that person's taking? I mean, I think all of us in whatever economic stratosphere can relate somewhere with somebody being able to do a certain thing that we feel we can't get away with ourselves. Whether it's because we're shy and they're outgoing, or because, we have, social constructs built around our community that they don't. I think a lot of people, like I said, Lin-Manuel Miranda is working very hard to both set him up as the villain, but to also really make us, identify with this guy. Trying to see what's going on.
And that's another reason why I couldn't come earlier, because we wouldn't care about him. We wouldn't
Yeah.
identify with him.
Yeah, and that's, when you bring in things too early, not only are you getting bombarded with too many things, but what's the context? Why do we care? How does this relate? And how much imagination did it take to find the spot? This is one note I will quote, because it does get into this and how you might have to think when you're looking for your ideas and what liberties you can take in fiction. This is definitely an internal thought. There's probably not a lot of documentation, if any, about Aaron Burr's feelings around this period to the extent that he writes. But it was when the footnote is 3 on page 87, coming right after she's married to a British officer. And Miranda writes, "This was the way into Burr. I knew he and Hamilton circled each other all their lives. I knew they went from friends to frenemies to foes. But it wasn't until I read this detail online, that Theodosia was married to a British officer, when Aaron Burr met her, and he waited until she was available, that the character of Burr came free in my imagination. Imagine Hamilton waiting for anything. That's when I realized our task was to dramatize not two ideological opposites, but a fundamental difference in temperaments. No easy task, but that was the task." And I will say, this is a wonderful thing he pulled off, because in general creative writing things, passivity is not very dramatic. And literally, to write a song about how a character's main source of action is he waits, is a tough trick to pull off.
But he has a
Yeah.
comment on that, right?
Yeah.
So footnote 4 on page 92.
How do you dramatize stasis, waiting for it? You give the audience a glimpse of the immense self-control that makes it possible. I make you wait even for the words, wait for it. I think that's a really instructive footnote in terms of
Yeah.
writing.
So, okay, actually, let's take our break now.